Good evening, everyone. I don't think you'll have any problems hearing me, but if you do, just say, I can't hear you. So I am an attorney. I'm a retired police chief, and I have a practice now. My partner is also a retired police chief.
Which town?
I'm from Mendon, he's from Milford. It's Horn and O'Laughlin Attorneys at Law. And we do a variety of law. We obviously know a great deal about the open meeting law and municipal government and stuff like that because we lived in it. So I'm here to answer the questions you have. I understand there's a lot of questions, or primarily there's questions about the open meeting law and what your rights might be at different meetings. So if somebody wants to fire away, we'll look at it and see if we've got an answer for you. And before we start, by me being here does not constitute an attorney-client relationship, all right? The information I provide you is general. Each legal opinion of a lawyer is based on very specific facts to a specific case. And I am not here as your lawyer giving you legal advice as a client, as long as everyone understands that, okay? So, fire away. Somebody's got to start.
All right, so I'm going to throw you a knuckleball. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
So, we have a child who believes that she is transgender. Sorry, I'm coming strong out of the gate here. The school has told us that she has the right to be called whatever name she asks them to, as opposed to her legal given name. The school also is completely affirming her choice rather than pushing back on it, saying that's ridiculous, respecting our wishes. Do we have any rights?
Of course you have rights. Is this child yours?
Yes.
Yes, you certainly have rights. When the school tells you that the child has the right to be called whatever they want, ask them to cite you the law indicating that.
Roger that.
What section of the Massachusetts law, particularly education law,
Okay.
are you referring to?
We were told that their attorneys told them to go by whatever the kid says.
Okay, well, so that's a legal opinion. And I would tell you to ask them to either get that opinion in writing, so you can look at what the lawyer based his or her decision on.
Yeah.
But I would tell you that it's problematic. You're the parents. The school doesn't get to raise your children. The school gets to educate your children. And you have a right to be involved in that. Now, if I'm the lawyer for the school, I might reasonably consider saying just what that lawyer said. Because my client is the school. I want to try to keep the school out of legal trouble. So I might take the position to do just that. However, if I represent the parents and that's not the parents' wishes, well, then that's a different story. Then I'm going to take the school on. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. And if you don't start asking questions, I will call out on you. I remember in law school, if you don't ask a question, the professor's going to call it. Go ahead.
All right. So one of our group members had their granddaughter and grandson come in to different meetings. One went to a legislative meeting and talk about how the flags and the propaganda are affecting them. And one of the counselors stood up, yelled at the child, pointed his finger at the child. The head counselor, or what's that head counselor's name?
Well, I thought you said legislator.
They went to two meetings. So one child went to the legislative meeting, the other one went
What
to the
is the
city council.
legislative meeting?
Legislative meeting is,
Are you referring to the state legislature?
oh no, I'm sorry,
General Court of
our city
Commonwealth?
of Pittsburgh
Oh,
has
okay.
a legislative meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay, so your city or town has a legislative meeting?
Yeah, and we were talking about the flag ordinance. So I raised a heterosexual flag in our city, and that was on the legislative meeting. So I don't.
Okay.
That is the I don't know.
So your question is?
So, the council meeting, one of the counselors,
And when you say the council, is this a board of selectmen, city council?
city councilors,
Okay,
one of the city councilors stood up, yelled at the child, pointed his finger at the child, saying something about how he has a gay friend, niece, or somebody who's gay and whatever. And it wasn't, the child didn't say anything negative about gay, it's just the flags are affecting them in a negative way.
Mhm.
The city councilor stood up, yelled, pointed his finger. The head city councilor, who was in charge of the meeting, banged his gravel and said that, because we started saying you can't yell, so we're all standing up like, just don't yell at a child, you can't point your finger at a child,
Right.
like it's hard enough for an adult to come in and try
Sure.
to talk to you people. This kid came in and you're standing up yelling and pointing your finger at a child. And the head councilor, well, he can point at his finger at whoever he wants, and he bangs his gravel, tells us to shush. So they can just intimidate the children
well, so, remember we have a constitution.
Yeah.
Who does that constitution protect us from? Is it from each other? How many think it's from each other? Raise your hand.
No, it's not, it's from government.
That's exactly right. So the child has inalienable rights, such as the First Amendment, free speech. And they should have allowed her or him to speak. It's okay if they disagree.
The child did speak.
Okay, but you're
And he
saying
didn't
that
like what
they
he-
jumped up and yelled at her.
Yeah, so
So
like
I'm
at the end.
assuming, I'm
yeah.
assuming you're saying that they told her she couldn't speak?
No,
Okay.
she spoke.
Okay,
It's just
okay, so.
the poor
that-
kid left crying and
Sure, well, that's called debate, all right? She had a right to say what she thought, and they had a right to say what they thought. So do I think that's a violation of a law? No, it's not a violation of a law. Is it perhaps bad manners as an adult? Is it perhaps bad manners as a public official? Perhaps. That's in the eye of the beholder. But did that person violate her rights? No. If the child was allowed to speak, her rights were protected. The other person who disagrees with has the exact same right to speak. Now, it's true that we have to try to have, one of the problems we have in our country right now is we don't have respect for each other. I don't frankly care what side you're on of any issue. Just be respectful. Let each side have their argument made. And that's what she did. So they didn't violate the law based on the facts that you indicated to me. Now, you talk about that people started yelling, don't yell at a child. I don't disagree with that either. However, when the chairman of the board gavels, the person in charge, he has a statutory authority under Massachusetts law to keep the meeting under control. And he, in fact, has the ability to remove parties after they've been clearly warned that they're disruptive. So I don't think anyone did anything wrong. Maybe, which seems to be the case around our country these days, is maybe we're just not being as polite to each other as we should. But based on what you're telling me, that's not a violation of any law. Now, if he said, you keep talking, I'm going to smack you, well, that's a different story. Now he's committed a crime, the crime of assault, and threatening to commit a crime. Next question?
Well, I got something. We're just getting involved with books in the school system.
Okay.
First of all, is there any type of a law against, for instance, pornography with elementary kids?
Well, yeah, so the definition of pornography is fairly well constructed.
Okay.
It is a violation of state and federal law. If it's disseminated, offered to children, or involves children in the, if you will, the display. Pornography is, of course, protected speech. You have a right to have pornography if you want, or anything else. It's your First Amendment right. However, that right does not exist if it involves children, someone under the age of 18.
Someone under the age of 18? So on that suppose you're in a sex ed class, or keep a child.
Sure.
I don't know, 5th, 6th grade even. Do they have the right to opt out of that? If they're, I just want to see from a lawyer's stance.
Well, so it really depends on the situation. If they want to opt out of that class because of their religious beliefs, the answer is yes. If you have a particular religious belief that conflicts with, you have a right to not to be involved in that. Now, it gets a little complicated because the school has a great deal of authority to educate the children. But the easy answer to that is, if it goes against your religious beliefs, that's a good example of where you could opt out. And the school is required under state and federal law to attempt to make an accommodation for you based on your religious beliefs. Now one second. Now, an example of an accommodation would be, okay, you can go to recess or a study group or some other event. If they say, if you don't want to be here, you go sit outside in the hallway, that's a problem. Because now that appears to be retaliation for standing up for something that's protected. And while we're on that topic, your religious beliefs, you're not required under state or federal law to have a specific denomination of any particular religion. Your religion is your business. The guidance from the EEOC and from the federal government, Civil Rights Act, is that it shouldn't be particularly questioned. What you believe is what you believe. And they're required to give what's called an interactive process, where they would meet with your child and with you and say, okay, what are your concerns? This does not work with our religion. Okay, what would you like us to do so that we're not in conflict with your religion? And it may very well be you go to another class, or you sit out of that class on those particular days, as long as it's not something that they do that appears to be punitive. Well, then your child can go sit in your car with you. That's a problem. Does that answer your question? Massachusetts education law is a whole separate area, and it is a bit complicated, but nothing in any state law can contradict or override the constitutional rights you have.
Now, is it only religious? I mean, suppose,
No, there's other reasons. That one
Okay.
just came to mind. What would be another reason?
no, I'm just thinking, just for the kid being innocent, you know, and they're exposed, and you have say a teacher that's off the deep end, and they're just, you know, they're putting these things in front of the kids, and they might be so young that they don't even know better.
I'd have to know the specifics of the
I
specific case, but what I can tell you is that you are the parents, you raise your children, and you should communicate with your school district about those issues. My experience with the school districts have been that they try to accommodate. Now, that doesn't mean everyone's experience is that, and of course, when I walk in as a lawyer, they often want to.
As a parent, you have a right to see their curriculum, for instance.
Of course you do. You have a right to see their curriculum, you have a right to see their school file.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
There are some privacy issues in there with the child, depending on the relationship with you, but generally, yes. Yep. A curriculum is public record.
Do we as citizens have the right to see a town's budget?
Of course you do, absolutely. You have a right to see the entire town's budget. The only exceptions to some things are the deployment of security personnel. And what I mean by that is, you have a right to see any documents of your town government, excluding parts of personnel files of people. Now, police officers have, the rules are a little bit different for them.
Yeah.
There's a case, Worcester Telegram versus the Worcester Police Chief, and that sets some standards for seeing their files. But generally speaking, you're allowed to see anything other than personnel files. But with police departments, they are not required, it's an exemption on the public record law to discuss or show you specific tactical, strategical type things that involve the deployment of security process, such as how they would handle a school shooter. They can show you generally, but if they have specific stuff for a specific building, that would be, generally would be an exemption, they don't have to show it. Because obviously the wrong person might be the one trying to get it. And ma'am, you had,
Yes, just back to the religious exemption.
nice and loud, please,
Yes,
because,
back to the religious exemption. You mentioned that the school can say, we want to meet and review with you. What is it that you don't like, and what could, you know? But my question is, when you, all you have to say is, it's against my religion, that's it. You don't have to go into, because a lot of people are pushing back and saying that's not good enough. They'll put in writing, they'll disclose their deepest personal, religious, you know, and that's nobody's business. and they'll come back and say, well, that's not good enough, that religious exemption, you need, you know,
So-
we're denying that.
Yeah,
or-
so here's how it works. A religious exemption for the government to not give you a religious exemption, primarily they have to just show that it interferes with their ability to do their job. It can be de minimis, small amount. It's much different than the American Disabilities Act, okay? That's a higher threshold. So they often can do that on a small part. However, if they tell you that your religion, they don't accept your religion or something, then you simply file a complaint with the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination. That is something that they will definitely look at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's all they have to really say, and then they have to accommodate, that's basically.
Well, hold on, no.
Yeah.
So if you say we have a religious issue here,
Yes.
the school is required to meet with you. They don't have to agree with you, but they're required to meet with you. And you explain what it is, and you ask for a specific accommodation, whatever that might be, and then they either decide to give it to you or not give it to you. Now, they have the right to say, we do not believe you have a sincerely held religious belief that is negatively impacted by what we're doing.
Well, see, that's my point.
So you take them to the MCAD.
In that language, I've read that in the law, that said, it's exactly as you just said
Yes.
it. It's
Yeah.
sincere, my sincere beliefs.
Yeah, so you take them to the MCAD, the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, and they will determine if you were discriminated against. Now remember, the case law and even the EEOC guidance at the federal level is you have to try to determine if they have a religious belief that is impacted by what you want to do. But at the same time, you need to be careful that you're not effectively interrogating them. So it's a difficult balance for an employer or the school or anyone else. I represent a bunch of Mass State Troopers right now on this very issue. And it is difficult. It is a difficult balance. But your recourse, well, you have two with the school. One, you can go to the MCAD, or you can also go to the Education Department in Boston and file a complaint with them. But ultimately, the Mass Commission Against Discrimination has the ultimate authority over discriminatory practices in the state.
Yeah, this delicate balance, it just,
Well, look,
You know,
we've got
the
lots of delicate
Constitution-
balances, and they're hard.
you know, it's like an atheist or whatever, I can't even.
Well,
It's like
you're
when
absolutely right.
When someone
Someone-
says it's
some-
against what I believe
Yeah.
sincerely, I don't want to be a part of this, there's a big period there, that's it, end of story.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be the courts, having to go and file and all this dragged out and on and on and on. And it's like, well, we don't think, we're deciding that what you think is not good enough.
But they have the
It's
right to do
absurd.
that,
But
just
you-
as you have the right to take them to court.
But to back up, when you said our Constitution overrides any of that state business,
Well, hold on,
You know,
hold
for
on. You gotta be
religious-
very careful how you quote me. What I said is,
yeah.
we were talking about free speech. What I said was, they can't enact a law that violates your constitutional rights. Now, you have the right to free religious beliefs as well under the Constitution. But case law over the hundreds of years shape how that right is to be interpreted, what level of authority. So religious rights are very low compared to other things such as
American disabilities.
the ADA or your ethnicity. Those things have greater weight. But religion is there, but it's down lower. And you know what? It's the world we live in. We have to try to respect each other's rights, but yet that's why we have courts. Courts are where we bring our grievances, all right? Because we can talk about anything here tonight. I may have one opinion, you may have another. You know, as I often hear, well, why do lawyers have different opinions if the law is the law? Well, because it's how they interpret the law based on their understanding of law and based on case law that has helped shape the law. If the laws were black and white, we wouldn't need courts. We wouldn't even need lawyers.
And what we're finding, I mean, what's happening it's abuse, complete abuse, and then dropping it back to the courts to decide. People are using their own interpretations of the law and saying, you know, you're not gonna take a vaccine, so you're fired. You know, and all these things against people's rights and medical. Not every person, or human being on the planet can take something into their body. And when you've got these entities that say every single person must, every single child in the school must, not everybody can. And there's a gamut of reasons why, and that has to be respected, and it's not being respected.
Well, it has to be respected, but
And
it also has to, they have to strike a balance. Because keep in mind, if we take the position that whatever your position is, we respect it, you don't have to do something. Well, then how do we decide what ones we do? If you have these people who, sovereign citizens, okay? They don't believe they have to have a driver's license to drive in any state.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so if we're gonna say whatever you want is right, then we've gotta say to them. And then we say, well, some of these people that say, well, I have the right to treat my spouse this way. So we say, okay, because you want to do that, you can. To live in a civilized world, there has to be balances.
Yes.
And everyone has a right to speak their mind as long as they don't do it violently.
Yeah. Well, there's laws against abuse, period, so, yeah.
That answer your
That's an
question?
example. I think so, yes, thank you.
Okay?
Cool.
Well, you know what, I don't think I've answered one from you yet, but we'll let her go first.
Yeah, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when this gentleman over here was talking about a transgender child, there's no law behind a school enforcing the parents to call them by that name. Would that be fair to say?
I'm not aware of, so I think I was real clear. I'm not aware of any law that says that, and what I said was, have them quote the law. If they
Right,
quote a law, you call me,
Okay.
and I want to see it,
Right.
all right?
Yeah.
And what I said was, a lawyer giving a legal opinion, that doesn't mean he's right. Just as when I give a legal opinion, it doesn't mean I'm right. But he is looking out, or she is looking out for their client legally, not the child.
Right, right. One more note that what I have been told about Massachusetts laws of education is that sex ed is not mandated in Mass at all. And is always a right to opt your child out, as well as opting them out of the surveys. As well as opting your children out of the surveys, the multitude of surveys that they're giving our children these days.
Certainly, you're not required to participate in any surveys.
And the sex ed, it is
What-
not mandated in Massachusetts.
Well, so let's be careful with that. It's not mandated at the state level. The question is it mandated at the school district level? Now that still doesn't mean that you can't opt out of it, but,
Yeah, because that's not their right, correct?
I'm sorry?
That's not their right.
Well, they have a right to determine the curriculum for the children, provided that it meets the guidelines at the state and federal level.
And that's not that's not.
Well, I don't know, I'd have to see the specifics, but as an example, you have a federal constitution, you have a state constitution. The state constitution can never give you less rights or protection than the federal constitution. It can give you more, but never less.
Right.
So the education curriculum at the state level sets a baseline. And then you must always give them at least the baseline. But you can give more, such as Spanish immersion or Chinese immersion or whatever it might be. You can do more on the local level. That's why it's so important to pay attention to who you elect. To different positions in your state, the Supreme Court of the United States, your selectmen, your school committee. You need to have a voice to see if, but remember, if they don't agree with you, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means you guys disagree. But that's why we have courts and that's why we have lawyers. You take it to a lawyer, he or she will analyze it. And they'll tell you if the school, whoever it is in violation of a law or not handling the situation correctly. And then the lawyer will try to resolve the issue with the school, and if that doesn't work, then the lawyer will either file a complaint with education department at the state level, or they'll bring an action in court to resolve the matter. There's always, as I used to say in police work, there's your side, and there's the truth.
Yeah. Wow.
So I wanted to touch on what he brought in about the porn in the school, or what we would say like explicit content.
So pornography, there's very specific elements that must be met for it to be pornography. And generally speaking, it would include seeing genitalia, parts of sexual organs, for it to be in fact considered pornography.
There's cartoons of people having sex. Here's how to do a blowjob. Lots of that type of stuff. I would.
Yeah, so I think that's something that you have to look at to see, because now, if I remember correctly, we're talking about stuff that we see in the library.
In the library, well, so they're putting it into the SEL, social emotional language and learning. So they're kind of sneaking it into all the curriculum, because you can opt out of sex ed, but you can't opt out of anything else. So that's their way of sneaking in. And a lot of the districts are using MGL, chapter 272, section 29.
And what is that? That's under
their-
the common decency statute.
Yeah, I can pull it up, I had it up 2 seconds ago. So that's what they're using to say
That it meets the common decency requirements of chapter 272?
it, as long as it's a educational purpose. So any librarian, teacher, or, let me see. As long as you're a bona fide school, museum, library, so they're using that to have this inappropriate material into the schools.
So that, they look to shield under that law, and that law is the common decency chapter for Massachusetts. It includes a lot of that stuff. So those things, you can still take them to court on it if you believe it's a violation of your religious, or you believe it's pornographic. Now, if you believe it's pornographic, you could take it to the police department for them to look at it. You could take it to the district attorney for them to look at it. But there are some leeway for education and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's the, I'm gonna butcher this, dissemination or possession of obscene matter, punishment, and defense. It's like that.
Yeah, submission.
Yeah.
So if you publicize or possess pornography that's of children or to children, that's a violation of state and federal law.
Unless you're a teacher, which.
And then it's going to depend on very clear criteria. Don't think that what I'm saying is a teacher can have a bunch of pornography on their computer that involves children, and that's okay. It's not. Because children doesn't fall under free speech under the First Amendment.
So, yeah.
It's a
Just for everyone, that
Yeah,
just seems
it's
to
a
be what they're
complicated
using.
area.
Yeah, that just seems to be what they're using.
I could
for-
talk to you for 3 days on case law on that, coming from both sides.
I should just follow up a little bit on that. All right, so they have the school library.
I'm gonna sit down, I don't think,
Yeah.
no one's right, I'm gonna put this one up here. Go ahead, sir.
A school
Contrary to
library.
popular belief, I am a man, but I can't multitask.
So the kids can take out, digital books now. They can take out whatever they want. I'm just wondering, like, protection for the kid. There's no I can name you some books that are considered pornographic that these kids, elementary, can take, and they don't even need. I don't know. They could just download the digital, or they could go in.
So if you think it's pornographic, you have to take it to the police
Okay.
or to a lawyer and have them look at it, make a determination if it's pornographic. If it's pornographic and someone is allowing it to be downloaded to children, then they have committed a crime. The question always becomes, is it really pornographic?
Right.
Does it meet any of the educational or medical exceptions? And does the person who allowed them to download it, do they know or should they have known that it's a minor that's downloading it?
Yeah, they'll hide behind the, it's educational or it's,
Well, it depends on if they meet that standard you just heard about, a bona
Sure.
fide teacher,
Well, each
education
school.
facility.
Literary value is what they call it.
Well,
This is
literary
great
value is
value.
different than educational purposes. Literary value, that's why I asked questions about the library. The library, you can kind of have anything you want in there, because that's free speech.
School library?
Well, the school library is controlled, it's different. It's under the control of the school committee. But a public library, that's,
Let me ask you this, sometimes you hear on the news that they're at school committee meeting and a parent or a child will start reading the book that they're allowing to do it, and they'll shut them right down. Now, I mean, from a lawyer's standpoint, why, besides the emotional, do they have a right to, I mean, they're saying it's disgusting, it's pornographic, it's, it's, and it just it just
they're
doesn't make-
exercising their free speech. The
Right
person
now,
that's
like-
reading it.
Yeah, but they'll say you're not allowed to read that because it's pornographic, or, you might have seen it on the news, or,
Well, if the school committee says it's pornographic, and that was in the school,
Yeah.
the school committee, for the most part, just handed you your case.
okay, good,
Um,
great. So that's,
If they say that's pornographic, you can't read it here, oh, okay, well, that's what you teach to our children.
we've seen, cases where people they had the police come in and drag them out,
Well, that's an entirely different issue. So, in Massachusetts, you have the right to free speech, you have the right to go to these meetings, you have the right to speak. If, and only if, you are called on
Sure.
by the person in charge. They are not required to call on you. If they don't call on you, you're not allowed to speak.
But if they call on you and you start reading the book that they're allowing in the school library, and they're saying, no, you're not allowed to, because it's obscene or whatever.
Okay, but there's two separate issues here.
Okay,
If they say you can't read it because it's pornographic, they've just handed you your case
Okay,
that there's
good.
pornographic stuff in that school system, or at least they've given you an argument.
Mm.
If you're talking and they tell you to stop talking, regardless of what you're talking about, and you don't, and they take the position that you are disruptive,
okay,
They-
that's different.
yeah, they have a right to warn you, and then they can have you removed by a constable or a police officer. And I can tell you, in all my years, I always told my police officers, you will not remove anyone from a meeting unless it's a fist fight, unless I'm there and I tell you to. Because you really can get yourself jammed up
Sure.
on a lawsuit. And it happens all the time.
We see an abuse of that in our meetings, that term, disruptive, is being abused.
Well, that's in the
Because
statute.
the people they're not being disruptive, they're just making their points.
Well, but
you know,
remember,
But the chair,
it's your opinion and not being disruptive.
and it's the chair's opinion you are, so they
That's
have,
right.
they have to say.
So they own the ball field.
Yeah, it's too bad.
So, but you can take them to court, you can take them to federal court on that for a violation of your First Amendment right. However, the courts are going to look at these things with a skeptical eye that, well, now hold on a minute. Somebody's got to run the darn meeting. And we can't have everyone yelling and talking out of turn and everything else. So, again, it's a really difficult decision to make and enforce, because it could go either way. The person can say you're disruptive, leave, you don't leave, the police remove you, you sue the police, false arrest, violation of your constitutional rights, and the court could say, geez, he told you to be quiet, you weren't quiet, no violation here. You could go to the next courtroom, and the judge says, no, I think that's a problem. I think they took away your right to speak. Because what are judges? They're human beings just like us. They try to apply the law the best way they can. And they may have different opinions. You can bring a case before one judge and they rule one way, and bring that same case before another judge and they rule differently. Because we're all human beings. It's how they interpret the facts of what is presented to them. Our justice system is the best in the world, but no one said it's perfect. But it's my opinion that the judges, particularly here in the Commonwealth, are very, very intelligent men and women, and they are also, and they sometimes, well, often rule against me. I think they're very fair, and they're always very, even though they're the one with all the power, they're always so incredibly respectful to people that come in the courtroom. We really have a wonderful system.
So I'm just wondering if there's any wiggle room or way to wiggle around this. You know, when they say a book is of literary value, and that's why we're allowing all the porn in it? Because authors, The Devil's Playground is in books that are not labeled as porn, they're not rated for the children. Children can go pick up a book that looks very innocent, the middle of it can have horrific things.
Sure.
So it's just all so deceptive, and the kids are getting at it. Is there any ground, is there any way to like make a case of this, or, you know?
Well, I think you have to, first you have to have a lawyer or someone analyze it, either a lawyer or the police. The police are gonna analyze it differently than a lawyer is. The police are gonna
What do you
look
mean
at.
by that?
Well, the police are gonna look at it and say, does this meet the specific elements of child pornography or the dissemination of pornography to children? They're gonna look at what will probably be the prosecutor's guide, model prosecution guide for the state, and say, does it meet these elements? A lawyer is going to look at it and look at those, does it meet the elements, but the lawyer is also gonna look at it, or does it meet the ability to bring a lawsuit in civil court based on case law, and you can seek damages and stuff like that. So there's kind of two sets of elements. There's a set for criminal, which is much more refined and specific, and then the civil action is more, it's I don't want to say blurry, but it's kind of a bigger gray area where you make a civil argument.
So, you know, you are.
But those things are expensive.
Yeah. You know that they're just using an excuse because we all grew up with books of literary value and they didn't have porn in it in our libraries. You know, so you know it's just what they're trying to put
Well,
forth.
Well, so, you know, there's different movements in the country,
Yeah.
and some of those movements are new and different than perhaps how we grew up, and that's kind of part of living in a always growing and expanding democracy.
So there's nothing that's defeated that argument yet. The literary value argument.
Well, you know, that's something you have to look at case law, and you'd have to take it to court based on very specific parts of your argument, what book. Because if you can't make an argument that anything that might have something in it isn't of literary value. You have to first make your argument, what is literary value in the general sense, then you have to make your argument why this is not of literary value in this specific situation, perhaps the specific book or the specific audience that has possession of that book. And then you have to show harm. Because if you want to beat literary value, you have to show a greater harm. The balance. Think of the scales of justice. Greater harm to leave this here.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up the point, like that book, they brought it into the meeting, was This Is Normal. That's the one, This Is Normal. So it's that LGBT, and it's got everything in there,
Yeah.
all the different sex, all the different, you know, and all the pictures, and
Are they pictures of people? or-
they're like cartoon, men with men, women with women,
Okay.
all the sex acts you can think of.
Yeah.
They're graphic, and they're pictures like that, but it's kind of cartoon drawn,
Yeah.
not real photograph.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Yeah,
trying to
so-
skirt around
Yes.
pornography.
Yeah, but it's all of that, and just lost my train of thought. But
Well, you said that they say this is, quote, normal.
yeah, so that's my point. So where do you draw the line, and so how far do you have to go that they're reading that
That it
book,
isn't normal.
and that this gentleman's child decides with the school, you know, that I'm going to start taking the hormones behind parents' back, and starts to get, you know, the mutilation with the body, and has the surgeries, and to not, okay, now harm's done, but let's try to go upstream and prevent that. So if the child is in the school behind the parent's back, and this is what is being propaganded to them against the parents' wishes and all of that.
So tell me what normal is. Define normal.
That's the title of the book. The
Define
title of the
normal.
book is This is Normal, right?
Yes.
No, but
Correct.
I'm asking, define the word normal. What is it? I guarantee you, everyone in this room has a different opinion.
I'm sure,
So,
I'm sure
the
everybody
general
does,
sense
yes.
on normal, when we look at sociology and stuff like that, is normal is what the citizenry or the community has decided meets a balance of norms. And it changes constantly. Changes constantly. If you think back maybe 30 or 40 years ago, it was unheard of, and it was a terrible thing to get divorced. Certainly not the case today.
Yeah.
Not at all. So society sets the definition of what's normal. And really what it is what they will tolerate. And it changes, it's fluid.
Well, a lot of people are saying, how much do we have to keep tolerating? We're here all here tonight, and there's so many groups and parents, and they feel helpless that this stuff's just coming from the top and being infiltrated in the schools, and they feel
Right.
kind of helpless.
Yeah. Well, again, you have to carefully pick who you put in powerful positions, because they will set a tone based on whatever their beliefs might be, and that's why you have to go. You have to go vote. You have to go vote. But I don't want it to. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong or right. It's your opinion. But I can go do a lecture somewhere else where someone has a completely different opinion than you. And what I care about is you should be able to debate your differences without beating each other up.
Well, we agreed on that, right?
Because that's really where we've gone wrong.
Yes.
Can we go, so freedom of speech. So as
Sure.
a public official, I'm all for freedom of speech, but how far can freedom of speech go? Like putting a citizen in danger? Is there freedom of
Sure.
speech?
So if you engage in righteous or fighting words, that is generally not free speech. If you yell fire in a movie theater and there's no fire in the movie theater, that's not free speech. If you engage in righteous behavior, that's not protected free speech. So, but again, there's 100,000 cases on specific situations of this where the courts go one way or the other way or somewhere in between.
How about if
That's the general rule though.
if a government official was to label a mom a hate group because they don't like the viewpoint, so viewpoint
Well,
discrimination.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but what do they have?
What?
Free speech, just like you. They can call you,
Being labeled a hate group is very dangerous these days, and
well,
should
you'd
be
have
taken
to
somewhat.
prove that was either the proximate or partial cause of whatever injury you receive. All right, it's pretty hard to get there. Look at some of the famous celebrities that they make all kinds of comments about them, and they have their bodyguards and this and that and everything else. That's not. I think what you're asking is that hate speech or is that a violation of free speech? Not based on what you're telling me. Now, if that person says, somebody in this room, if you've got a gun, shoot her. That is not free speech. That's inciting a riot. That's suggesting, trying to get someone to commit a crime. That's not free speech. That's like yelling fire in a crowded movie theater where there's no fire and people get hurt or killed. And you get sued and you say, hey, I got a right to free speech, and that's not protected speech. But calling you a hate group or calling you ugly or anything else, they could do that. Now, if you are a member of a protected group and they call you a name that is derogatory towards that group, that might be a hate crime. As an example, when they spray paint swastikas on the steps of a church, that's a hate crime, because that's motivated to a specific group of people. Does that answer your question? May not be the answer that you want, but.
Yeah.
But you know, when your public officials should have a certain level of professional decorum.
I don't think some of them do.
Well, again, it goes back to who we vote into office, because people should be respectful of each other. But again, if you think about it, that's really the biggest problem here, is we can't disagree without attacking and insulting each other. You have no idea what my political beliefs are, nor will you. But whatever mine are, if they're different than yours, I'm never going to call you names. I'd love to debate you on whatever it is that we might be debating, because as I look at it, you may prove to me that some belief I have is incorrect, or I may prove to you that some belief you have is incorrect. But at the end of the day, what we should be able to say to each other is, we sure disagree with each other, but I still love you, and walk away. That's the way it should be. Next question. Gentleman in the red, you haven't asked a question yet, so this is your turn to get picked on. Now, I won't do like we do in law school and say, stand up and say, and look at the class and state your name, and then ask you some incredibly complicated legal question. You're like, what the hell is that? But go ahead, you got something? Think of something. And if you need a minute, I'll come back, but I'm warning you, I'm coming back. All right? Do we have somebody else? Yes?
Let me try a different way. Now, we're finding a lot of the.
Oh, let me try a different way. Let me find a way to get you to see it.
No, I'm thinking of a different. We're finding a lot of parents are unaware of what's happening in the schools, and we're trying to get that information out. And just a couple things. I've heard that it's okay to stand on the sidewalk and hand out like flyers, just informational, nothing crazy.
There's nothing wrong with that. Now, the town you live in might have a bylaw or a city ordinance that says if you are going to engage in solicitation such as that, you need to get a permit, or you need to check in with the police department. Possibly.
PTO meetings. Now,
PTO means you can hand stuff out.
But if you're not parents and you're allowed to go, we're grandparents.
No, you can't. No,
Just
in
wanted to
Attleboro,
get-
they won't let us go.
Just want
They
to.
won't let you go into a PTO meeting because you're a
No.
grandparent?
Well, we can do it, no, because we don't even have any kids in the system.
Not-
But we
not-
can do
not-
it on the sidewalk,
Huh.
but we're not allowed in the meeting. Not allowed.
I'm just wondering.
Now,
What you think?
hold on, I want to, just give me 1 minute. The reason you're not allowed in the PTO meeting is why?
They said it has to be parents only.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm not so sure they're right about that.
Yeah.
Because a PTO meeting is often, there's school officials at those PTO meetings a lot of
Right,
times.
right.
So that's called a quasi-governmental meeting. And sometimes the Constitution applies to those quasi-governmental meetings. I'll give you an example. There's a famous case, and I'm going to ask the gentleman in red to cite what the name of the case is. But there's a case where someone has a coffee shop in a governmental building, all right? Might have been a state or federal parking garage. And he has a little coffee shop in there. That was a bazillion years ago. And I forget the exact specifics, but there was some group of people he didn't allow in, and I want to think it might have been blacks. No black people are allowed to come into that coffee shop. Now, the argument he made was, this is my private place. I have my own rights. Now, of course, there's been a lot of case law since that with bakeries and cakes and stuff. But he said, I have that right. I don't have to. And what the court said, oh, hold on a minute. That applies to governmental buildings. That's a governmental building, and because the government is allowing you to rent that space, there is a semblance that there is a relationship between you, a quasi-governmental relationship. One could suggest that the government doesn't have a problem with that, and is allowing you to violate rights. So that they had to change or be removed from the building.
Just to follow up on that, I know there's a Be Heard type meeting in Attleboro that they started, and a lot of times they'll have it online, and it'll go an hour. But then after that hour, they have a closed meeting.
What is this, a what, a be heard? What's that?
So what, it's a,
They call it Be Heard. It's basically a,
Oh, be heard.
yeah, you know Be Heard?
No, I know what the two words mean. At first I wasn't sure if it said beehive or bee. I thought we were definitely talking about bees and something. But okay, be heard, yeah, go ahead.
well,
Yeah.
okay.
No, so they're just kind of promoting the equity, diversity,
Yeah,
inclusion.
it doesn't, they promote whatever they want.
Yeah, so they're just kind of promoting all the sex ed, they're promoting everything that we're fighting.
Okay, well, they have the same rights as you.
Right, so I don't know what point he's
Oh,
getting
yeah,
at.
no, that's
I'm
fine.
just telling you what they are.
Okay,
But I'm just saying, after that, they have like their own private meeting
yeah?
in that building, and, as taxpayers,
Well, what, you haven't told me what building it is.
Yeah, I don't know what building,
Oh.
oh, they're actually in the school.
in the school. So,
Yeah.
I mean, see,
Okay.
there's some question about what they're doing behind the scenes, and as taxpayers, can we,
Well, so here's the-
politely go and
Yeah,
ask
so
them?
here's the interesting thing about that. If you're going to allow private groups to hold meetings in governmental buildings, okay? Can you do that? How many say you can?
Depends.
How many say you can't?
I think you can.
And now we're gonna look to the man in the red shirt. Can they or can't they?
I don't know. I don't think. they-
Okay, good answer. What's your first name too?
David.
David, okay. Well, they can. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you're going to let a specific political group meet in your facility, you can't then tell another political group that has a different political position that they can't.
This is actually,
Because now you're discriminating.
And define political.
Well, then it gets complicated. The one I like to use is,
Is the PTO political?
a police department will allow groups to be in their, this is years ago, will allow groups to be in their like community room. It's off the lobby, they can have meetings there. So a Hitler group, all right, a Nazi group said, well, we want to use it. Oh, no, you can't. And they sued them. So it was discriminatory. You know, an argument was, they argued that this was their kind of their religious thing and all this other stuff. So either you kind of allow everyone or you don't allow anyone.
That's the flag issue with all.
And again, what I'm telling you is in general terms, because I can think of specific cases and specific instances where I will have a different opinion.
well, this group is being paid by the government. I mean, it's part of the school,
Well, how do you know
taxpayers'
this?
money.
Well, how do you know this group is being paid by the government?
You know more about
The
that.
school funds, I don't know where they come from, I don't know if it's government.
Well,
They're
but see,
funded by-
that's always the problem. They're getting paid by the government, but when I ask you, you don't know. Unless they're getting paid by the taxpayers,
So we were told by the assistant superintendent
okay,
that they have funds for them. So we didn't bother to question that any further. 'Cause the
Full of
assistant
public record request.
Yes.
yeah, you can put a public records request.
That's that would be a violation.
Well, I don't know, because they might have a grant, and it might be a community block grant that gives them the ability to do different things.
I think it is, I think it's a
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah,
How's that?
That's ringing a
yeah,
bell.
it allows diversity in different things.
Yep.
So, that's why I try to tell them, be very careful when you say you can't do something, you'd be surprised. When you go to law school for 4 years, you know what you learn? You learn how to be a good researcher, you learn how to argue, and you also learn that you will never know the answer to everything.
Yeah.
So always be careful. So that depends, especially block grants, if it's community block grants, because there's all kinds of things for different things. And it may not even be your money, it may be federal money from, the federal level.
Is what happens at a PTO.
I'm
meeting
sorry, sir,
public
did you raise
knowledge?
your hand?
Mr. Cobb, Mr. Cobb.
He has special rights.
Is what happens at a.
Yeah,
at a
the food was very
PTO.
good tonight. Did you cook all of that?
I did.
Thank you.
You did a good job. You did a good job. I'm just gonna be honest with you, I wish I had a pair of scissors.
Ernest,
Oh, I cut that stuff all off. Go ahead.
is what happens at a PTO meeting public knowledge? Is that?
Well, so that's
government?
where we get, that's where the question becomes, is that a quasi-governmental meeting? If it's all private citizens, then the answer is no. If it's a mixture of private citizens and governmental officials, the question is not necessarily so clear. But it would make me believe that the public would have a right to be in there because your public officials are there. Now, if it's on public property, that supports an argument that you should be able to walk in it. You should be able to walk into any meeting on a governmental property unless it meets an exception under the executive session things. Now, the reason I asked these two guys over here, who now don't even want to listen because he's eating cake. Well, the reason I asked them is it only because you don't have kids, because you sir, I believe are over 40.
41.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm not sure about you.
It's
I
a
can't
birthday
really
today,
tell.
by the way.
Is it?
Almost full retirement age.
Happy birthday.
So
Thank you.
if you're over
Thank you for the
40,
You got it.
and it was
If I
because
had
of
known,
your
I'd have written in
grandparents, you don't have
second
kids in the school, well, then there's an argument that you're being discriminated against because of your age. You're over 40. Can the government discriminate? Dave?
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
stand up. Dave, can the government discriminate against people under the age of 40? Yes or no?
They can.
You have 30 seconds and you do not have a phone call you can make.
Can they discriminate against people under the age of 40?
And the guy in the back behind you who seems to be trying to give you help, if he continues, he'll be next.
No, I don't think so.
I think they can.
Well, that, of course they can.
Okay, who says they can?
Yes.
Who says they can't?
What describe,
Under the
define,
age of 40.
discriminate?
Well, discriminate based on your age.
Yeah.
No.
No.
They can't drink, they can't drive, they can't.
Everyone who says that they can't do it, raise your hand.
They can't.
Nice and high,
I can't.
you're wrong.
Under the age of 40?
Absolutely,
What is-
do it all the time.
You can't drink until you're 21, you
What
can't
is-
drive.
Excuse me,
Huh?
if you continue to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, be careful.
I apologize.
Yes, but she's right. Military service, driver's license, getting a job,
What do I get at 40?
not much.
Nothing.
I do.
So what
You
do
get
I
to
get?
continue
What
doing
can
all
I
of those
get?
things.
Not at before 40. What can they say?
Well,
Say I'm
things like-
39.
Well, if they want to pass a law that you can't do something until you're 40, they could do that.
Huh.
Now, the gov, and I don't want to get too far off here because there's all kinds of rules and standards. The government has to show a significant reason why they want to do that. But yeah, they can discriminate under the age of 40. Yes. I think you're going to get the gold star too. You've asked more questions than anyone.
Question about the grants.
Yeah.
We have the Vax Clinic giving away bicycles, trip to the
Great Wolf Lodge.
Wolf Lodge for 4.
Where do I
free
apply?
books. Huh?
Where do I apply?
Oh,
You have to
yeah.
get it.
You just have to get a badge.
Oh, sure they-
$75 Target, all kinds of good
Yeah.
goodies. It was unbelievable. So we went to, my question is, I asked the public health nurse, I said, who's paying for this? Well, we got a grant.
There you go.
Well, who wrote the grant? Where's the grant from? I don't know.
Yeah. The grant could be from a private
I
entity.
looked it up, so I know where the money came from.
Where'd it
I know
come from?
550,000, Department of Public Health.
Okay.
But, and there's a lot, there were other funds that they were given as well. So my question is, do they have to follow something under the specific grant to how that money's?
Yes, always.
So
Grant,
how specific is, because,
well, I don't know, I'd have to see the grant.
Can
But
it be written to discriminate?
Let me say this, I've written plenty of grants in my career, and some of those grants are 40 or 50 pages long
Yeah.
of what you can't do and what you can do. So they're often very, very specific.
we're gonna get the grant, look that up.
Yep.
I
Now,
think this- oh,
now,
it's stepping over the
is that with like the state or a town?
It's the city of Fitchburg.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. Can you file, what's an FMLA?
Family
Family
emergency.
leave of absence.
Okay, what's the freedom of information?
You can, Jess has done it.
FOIA requests, so
FOIA. What is that?
public record requests.
Okay, so who can you serve that FOIA on?
The
Anybody.
city, any
No,
adult.
you can't. No, you can't.
FOIA request?
You are wrong. FOIA is federal. Public records is Massachusetts. Okay?
What happens if the city's getting federal funds though?
If you're requesting anything from the city, it's under the state law of public records. Now, you could argue that if you're in, I could serve you with a FOIA and could argue if you are in possession of federal documents, you have to turn those over unless there's an exemption under federal law. But FOIA is a federal law on federal documents. I used to get letters from lawyers, FOIA requests for police reports. I'd send them back denied, and they'd file a complaint with the Attorney General, says, submit a freedom of information request. I don't possess or house any federal documents. You gotta reserve me by the public records law in Massachusetts, because it's different timelines, different exemptions.
What's that called?
Public records request.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, go ahead, next thing.
I want to jump on hers real quick. So let's
Which-
say one child goes in and doesn't get a vaccine,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then one child is vaccinated. They can discriminate on federal funding grant, the grant, because it's federal funding. Whether
So
this
one gets
person
the
gets a prize
bicycle
and
and
this
the other
one,
one
yeah.
doesn't. Well, if that is a requirement
That
to
was-
get it, yes, that's okay. They're not discriminating against them.
For not being vaccinated, that's not a
They're-
medical discrimination?
Well, hold on. You said one got it, one didn't get it.
Yeah.
That's their policy based on their grant. That's okay. The federal government cannot, for the most part, in most cases, cannot make states do many things. But what they can do is not give you federal aid. And that's not discriminatory, and that's really what that's about. If you follow our wishes and get the vaccine, we're gonna give you something. If you don't, we're just not gonna give you something. But that's not discriminating against you medically, unless that child now says, I have a religious belief that this interferes with. Well, now that's a different story. A good example is, if Massachusetts didn't adopt the 0-8,
Or what happens if the child had a heart condition and that's the reason?
well, they gotta present it, why they're not getting it. But that's still, in this particular case, still wouldn't be that they get the prize. They didn't do it. That's not discrimination.
No, it's mom's tax dollars.
No, that's not discrimination. But a good example is, if Massachusetts chose not to adopt the national standard of 0-8 for under the influence of alcohol, can the federal government force them to adopt 0-8? No. That power is left to the states under the Constitution. Those powers not giving to the federal government and not forbidden to state government shall remain with state government, such as your police powers. So how does the federal government get Massachusetts to go to a .08?
Money.
Money.
Cut funding.
All of the money.
You don't want to do it? No problem. You know that $48 billion you're getting in highway repairs and bridge rebuilds? Gone. Congress just votes not to give it to you. They buy you into doing that.
That's like the ESSER, almost $3
Yeah.
billion that our state was given to mask and HVAC and vax and follow and quarantine. They're being paid to do all that.
Next question.
It's just that you guys are talking about like the Massachusetts state law with the schools and things like that.
That's
So-
where we are, Massachusetts.
Well, yes, we have Massachusetts. Do we have, like what Arizona has, follow the taxpayers' money, or take your children out of the school system and homeschool them, so then you have that?
We have the right to homeschool in Massachusetts.
Right, but do we have that money to follow us if we wanted to go via private school?
You know,
Mm-mm.
So,
No,
I
you-
can't
But we need to vote
answer,
on it.
you know, how it is with Arizona, but what I can tell you is that if your child chooses to go to a different school, money has to be sent there to pay for that. Now, there's the big battle over charter schools and religious schools, and I don't know that that'll ever end about that stuff.
I hope not, especially what I'm hearing tonight. And I do have one more question. So, freedom of speech. Our town here in Rentham, Massachusetts, there is in the center, the landlord will not allow anybody to put a sign, any type of sign, except for their business name,
Yeah.
except for one. coffee place and it says Black Lives Matter. So why can that person put that sign up, but no one else is allowed? Not that I'm asking you
Yeah,
why.
who's the landlord?
Oh, it used to be a Russo.
Okay, you just answered your own question. It's his private property, he can do what he wants.
He can, really.
Yes, absolutely.
Just because you're private doesn't mean you could still yell fire though, like, and have the fire department come. There's still that fine line,
hold on.
right?
Hold on. Don't start mixing the
Okay.
specific events. all
I
right?
was mixing it, but
Yeah.
I was also
You
trying
can-
to get.
You can have whatever signage you want on your private property, for the most part. You can say, I hate white people. I hate people with blue eyes. I hate cows. Do whatever you want, it's your private property. It's your free speech. Now, if that was a rotary in the center of town, owned by the town, different story. If you allow Black Lives to Matter, then you have to allow anything else.
But he let one person have it, but not anybody
Well,
else.
it's his business, he can do whatever he wants. It's his private
Yeah,
property. He has his absolute right to free speech.
Is it people that are renting, is it, or
Yeah, it's the
businesses?
people who rent, everybody is
Do they
renting.
live there or businesses, did you say?
It's business, it's
So
all,
they're, he owns a property, they're businesses,
correct,
but only one business can have a sign, but the others.
correct.
Unless they have some language in their lease, he can do whatever he wants.
No,
But-
it's interesting,
yeah.
it's good to know, yeah.
But are you saying that he doesn't allow the other businesses on his property to have signs of the name of their business?
No, they have this,
Okay.
so no, if
Yeah.
it's like,
He
you know,
allows only one position politically,
correct,
be- yeah.
correct, correct.
absolutely can do it, no problem.
That's interesting.
Unless it's like an HOA or something that.
Isn't it posted on the town sidewalk though?
I'm sorry?
Isn't the sign on the sidewalk?
The Black Lives Matter, you mean? No, it's actually on the window.
Alright, so it's on the business. That's what I was gonna say,
As long as it's not on government, as long as
it's
it's not on government property, he can do whatever he wants.
It's just interesting, one can have it and the other, you know, you
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
And I'm going back to literary value. So do you, is it my understanding that that trumps over harmful stuff in the books?
It absolutely depends on the specific situation.
Okay.
You've got literary value and you've got harm. What is more important, or what is less injured by the other?
Such garbage
And
to
you have
say
to
literary
So
value.
if you say that,
To define how.
I don't like this, so you can't have it, you've injured free speech, but is it appropriate to injure it? Now remember, if it's you privately, you can do whatever you want. This only applies to the government. If you build your own library, you can put any books in there you want, and you can keep out any books you want.
Right.
Because the Constitution doesn't apply to you
This is
Right.
schools.
like that.
So one more thing,
Not likely.
so far, cartoons in graphic sexual books.
Yep.
Is that like not considered?
Well, we just had that conversation a while ago.
I know,
I'd have
but
to
that's the
look
way
at
I
the
interpret it. Is
specifics.
that right?
Well, it becomes unclear. I'd have to look at it, but, and I'd have to look at who it involves.
So what Jessica had described earlier, you know, and it's cartoon.
Yeah,
The
I'd
worst-
have to see it. If you wanna give her, Laura, a copy of it, I'll look at it.
I was actually going to ask you that. Do you guys have all the content you're referring to, like the
Don't have it
pictures, the text?
tonight.
That's
If
okay.
you wanna send
Here's what I
something,
want.
the last
Here's
meeting.
what I want
I'll
to
look
try
at
to do.
it and I'll do a little research.
And maybe we could look over it with Jay McMahon as well.
Sure.
Would that be good? I'd actually really love you guys to have a conversation together. We'll talk about that later. But if I have Debbie give you our connector email address. I think it's info@actfreeconnector.com. But have her give you that. It's probably on the new business cards.
Yeah.
Send anything you have related to that
Okay.
to that email address. I'll print everything, including the slides from our last presentation. We'll put it all together and just see if there's anything that can be worked with, maybe.
Okay. Because
Okay?
it's not only the graphics. I mean,
I
the
know,
wording
and it's
is
the text.
just as
I'm aware.
graphic.
the excerpt that we had from the This Is Normal book, I mean, I was floored. Like, and I
me
knew it was
too.
bad. I had been hearing all kinds of things until I saw it in front of me. But
too, yeah.
doesn't mean anything is being violated. But I think that if we can compile everything, because I think you guys have more beyond just that. It sounds like that's not the only book we're referring to, is it?
No,
Right.
MFI actually has a list
So-
going and they have a book club.
Right. So if you guys can do that part, just compile everything you've got, get it to that email address, and then Debbie and I will take it from there.
Okay.
Okay? Let's do that.
Yes, sir.
In the mid-80s, the book The Joy of Sex came up in my household, in my parents' household, because I was only 15. And that was deemed educational. Now, that is black and white sketches inside of it. It clearly shows penises and vaginas, and penises going into vaginas. But it was not deemed pornographic.
Wow.
It's an educational book called The Joy of Sex.
Well, wait, was that
It's been
that
around
wasn't being
forever.
used as like curriculum for kids, was it?
No,
Yes,
it's for adults.
that was the issue.
No kidding.
And what you just described was, to me, sounded male, female, not,
There were also homosexual parts, but they were not as in-depth as what I'm seeing nowadays.
yeah. This was.
There
You
was
can send the stuff,
sometimes
I'll look
boys
at it,
like
see if it
boys,
meets
and
the
sometimes
standard.
girls like
Right.
girls.
Exactly. Yeah.
So from what I hear, Massachusetts is very difficult to nail down to what is called explicit sex and crime against minors.
I never said that.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
I've heard that before I came to this meeting.
Yeah.
It's very fuzzy, it's very difficult to nail
Well,
down.
Is it fuzzy?
it really isn't. In the educational setting, it can be. But pornography is well defined at the state and federal level. As far as what it is and how it's
One of
dealt
the
with.
books online, you can look it up.
But those lines blur with education, art, right? Think of some of the billion-dollar paintings.
Phallic sculptures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe I think it's phallic, maybe you don't.
Yeah. No. I mean, is that pornographic? You know, so, but it, you know, the thing I used to always say, I'll know it when I see it, if it is. But drawings and different things, it's quite, and really, the great one is statues that show the genitalia and everything else. And some of these paintings by famous artists over the centuries show all different parts of the bodies. It's not pornographic.
Well, they depict it in a totally different way.
Yeah, they are.
Well, but see, pornography doesn't require them to be depicted in certain ways. Pornography, if you show the genitalia to the child, pictures, video, that is pornography.
Well, somebody posted the statue of David in, Venice. And
Well, that's,
that,
yeah.
If David had a hard-on, would he be pornographic?
Do drawings
Or would it
count,
just
or
be
are we
art?
just
It's
talking
It's
about
really kind of hard.
yeah.
I gotta see it. The easy ones are video and photographs.
Right.
Okay.
And it kind of depends on the setting. Because remember, pornography is not illegal. It's not at all illegal.
Except with minors.
It's only illegal if you show it to a minor or it involves a minor. Otherwise, it's not illegal.
And to be clear, not necessarily doesn't have to have children involved in what you show.
No, if it involves the depiction of children or is disseminated to children,
That's against the law.
that's against the law.
So library considered dissemination?
Well,
School
see, the
library?
library is a different animal.
School library,
Yeah, you get into that whole thing about free speech. School libraries are where you gotta talk to your school committee, because they're the ones in charge of it. But imagine if the library, if I like certain types of books and you don't like them, so my books aren't allowed to be in the library?
Well, in the libraries, they have a children's section
Yeah,
and the rest of the library.
yeah. But that's, all that is to show them where their books are. Show me a library where there's a locked chain fence that child can't walk around the rest of the library.
That's true.
True, but most likely their parents are gonna usher them into the child's
Most
section.
likely, but not definitely.
Not definitely.
There was a video, and you don't know what you're looking at half the time, but the school-age boy went into the library, and he said the book was right in front when he walked in, and he actually went to one of the meetings, and he read from it, and he said this was the book, and he said not only was he getting that, but the person, the adult in the library said,
Gave it to him.
said, and why don't you get this too, and it was considered pornographic.
Look, it's a tough area. You look, there's been cases where there's been people sitting in the public library on public computers watching pornography. Is it a violation? If a child walks by and sees it, it most certainly is.
Not if they're in the child section.
Public, we pay for that.
Well, no.
Or they put education
It
sticker on it.
doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if they're in the child section. Anywhere in the world. Anywhere. If someone is sitting in a restaurant with clear-cut pornography and a child sees it, that guy's got a problem. Now, of course, there'll be an argument that he didn't disseminate it, that'll be for him to try to defend.
So, on the MFI called Mass Family Institute called this Monday, there was, I think, someone from Southborough that's fighting a fight about her young preschooler in the children's section of the library pulled out a pornographic book. And she's got 3 very young children, so she was trying to get them all. And she brought that
Where are
to
you
the
going?
director's attention.
I'll bring you back a full report.
You need a permission slip.
You don't leave the classroom without letting the teacher know.
Yeah, so she's fighting, she brought it to the director, library director, she's like, I'm not taking that out of there. I'm not taking that out of there, and so she brought it to the town council. They disagreed with her. So she had a table set up at a town gathering,
Mhm.
and that's the furthest that she went. She got the good, the bad, the ugly that
Yeah.
came at her
Yeah.
with that, but no one from the town, no one from the library is on her side, the city council is not on her side.
Well, I don't know if it's pornography or not.
But it was graphic, pictures and stuff,
I'd have to see it.
yeah,
The devil is in the details of everything.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm ready.
Dave, 20 minutes later.
Dave speaks.
Wow.
So I've got 2 things now.
Oh,
Wow.
I don't know, we're gonna have to take a vote.
So the first thing you had mentioned, and I gotta understand this with some of my own background. With the federal government can give their level, and then the state can make it more strict, and then towns can go stricter as it progresses there.
Well,
And
towns don't usually have a constitution.
Well, right, but so we're talking here like the definition you had mentioned of pornography, right? The federal government has a specific
yeah.
definition. State has their own similar. Is it similar or the same?
It's virtually the same.
Okay, so as we go down to like
No,
town level.
no. The towns cannot create their own law on pornography.
Okay, so when it
There's
comes to like
the issue of supremacy.
right, so when it comes to like zoning bylaws and things like that, where it goes to somebody looking to get a permit to create an establishment,
Yeah.
the town has bylaws that define what's acceptable.
They must meet the state zoning laws, and they can give additional direction or protection as long as it doesn't violate the state zoning laws.
Right, so that like
As
the
an
definition
example
of,
is some towns will say you could have an acre and a half to build a house on, others will say you only have to have a half an acre.
right. But where it comes to like uses, like the use of the building,
Yep.
some town bylaws are very loose when it comes to, and I don't think it's a definition of pornography, but it's like some towns, their definition only includes like strip clubs, for example, and then other towns will be more specific in that it includes like strip clubs, it includes like pornographic materials and things of that
Sex
nature.
shops and
Right.
stuff like that.
Right, but in one town, it only includes like strip clubs, for example. So does that come back to the state definition of?
Well, so you get an entirely different area. No town can have a bylaw, you can't have a strip club in the town.
Right, but it's
They
zone,
can
like zone.
pick a zone.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and they can't set restrictions that do not meet a significant government interest in how they restrict those. They can restrict the area, but they can't do things like the building can only be 1,000 square feet, the ceilings must be 7 feet high.
Mhm.
You know, they can't do things that they don't do to other businesses.
Okay.
So, but they have to fall, that comes under, a lot of that comes right under the First Amendment
Okay.
at the federal level.
All right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's so there was an issue that somebody else had spoken to me about at a different meeting, where their particular town had a very loose definition of what was allowed under
Yeah.
the pornographic.
That's a problem.
And the town right next door had a much more stricter version, and so he was trying to get his
Yeah.
town to adopt the
Yeah.
next town over, and based on kind of what we're talking about here now, in that the state has its own definition, and taking that and suggesting that the town should meet the minimum of what the state standard for.
The town must always meet the minimum.
Right.
And then, but then it can do more as long as it doesn't abridge or interfere with the zoning laws or the Constitution.
Right.
So if one town has a very strict law on strip clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and it hasn't been successfully overturned, then that's probably a pretty good law.
Right.
And it's not a bad idea to adopt in other towns.
Right.
If you have a very loosely designed law, then there's a lot of things that they can do that you're not gonna be able to stop them from doing.
Right.
And then if you try to change it midstream while they're doing it, they're gonna cry foul.
Right. So the issue really came up when you can't bring children, minors, into a strip club because there's graphic content and pornography. And so the issue is coming up: what happens in a public setting like a library or a coffee house or a restaurant pub area where they're having the commenting drag queen story hour type stuff, where they're having people come in that are doing things very similar to what would happen in a strip club.
But they're not.
Right. Well,
They're not though. A drag queen, or at least the ones that I've looked at recently with some of these arguments, they're fully clothed.
okay.
So they're entirely different.
Right. So yeah, well, the argument was basically, if you're having people perform similarly as in a strip club in areas with much less regulation, that's where the argument came from. In that town, that this person was trying to get this stricter definition of what's
Well, if you
allowed.
don't have a strict definition, then you could have problems.
Right.
But a drag queen that's not exposing genitalia or breasts is not the same as a strip club.
Sure. Understand. Yeah. Okay.
So what happens if they denied a stripper that was fully clothed to do a stripper story hour? My
Well-
stripper will stay fully clothed, is that
They could have,
would that be like an equality thing?
well, if they did it because it's a woman, then it's a gender issue. If they did it because they don't like the fact that you're a stripper and you want to come in and read story time to your children, well, they could try to make an argument of a First Amendment.
Isn't that the point of the drag queen shows are adult sexual performers? They just happen to not be doing
Right,
their.
yeah, so like I just said with the stripper, they could file a lawsuit. You discriminated against on my free speech. What I do in my
Right, you
job
allow
is
one
my
and then not the
business.
other? That wouldn't work?
I'm sorry?
Like you allow one and then not the other?
Well, that's what I'm saying. What you said was, if they don't allow a stripper to come in, but they allow a drag queen to come in, well, that's a problem. You're using what I do for a living. I think even if you didn't allow, I think no matter what, you clearly have a problem if you say you can't come here and read story time because of the job you have. If you have to be a professional drag queen and they won't let you read to the children because they don't like your job or you're a Playboy bunny or whatever it is, that's a problem. It's a free speech issue. Now, they may say, well, we don't think it's appropriate for you to come in here dressed as a drag queen. That might be okay for them to deny that. Just as, would it be appropriate for, well, my mom's a stripper, so can she come in with nothing but a bikini bottoms on?
Pasties.
Yeah, pasties or something, So, see, those are the cases that have to go to court. Because everyone scratches their head and looks at it.
So you gotta find some
Free
strippers that wanna
speech,
keep their
free
clothes on
speech
for
is
3
is a
hours.
really tough area. Because what you think is free speech and what everyone in this room think, I could put three possible free speech scenarios in front of you, and I bet we give 7 or 8 different opinions of which one is free speech and which one isn't. Because it's really hard to tell.
Oh, why?
Go ahead.
Okay, you had mentioned, talking the porn thing, and you had mentioned, medical. So if you're the health person giving the class and you've got, color photos of genitalia and you're showing STDs, genital warts, all the, syphilis, gonorrhea, and all that stuff, and what these diseases look like, is that, just middle school?
That might be educational.
Yeah, I would say it is, yeah,
Yeah,
being a nurse practitioner.
yeah, well, there you go.
If you look down and you see this, go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look down and it's on the ground, go to the doctor. Fast! Oh my God.
My second
You
one.
know, Dave is finally, 2 hours later, Dave finally got involved. And now we won't shut up.
I'm here. All right. So, if the school curriculum is, public knowledge, and
Yeah.
you can get that, how difficult or easy is it to corroborate what's actually happening in the schools versus what the curriculum says is supposed to be
Yeah,
taking
that's
place?
pretty tough. Let's face it, until COVID hit and we started, doing education from home, a lot of people, or at least what you hear is a lot of people say, I didn't know that's what they were teaching.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard. I mean, you gotta talk to your kids, I guess. You gotta look at their paperwork, you gotta look what they're doing.
Is there anything that you can do to get a better understanding of what's actually taking place day to day, or is there?
Not unless you're gonna dress up as a little kid and go to school.
You can request that. That was the whole. You were there for Mira's
I missed the first
presentation on.
half.
Oh, I'll get you all the slides. Basically, the way she put it was that anything on those computers is a public record,
Yes, and you can.
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
and
yeah.
so you
Yeah.
can get.
Anything in the curriculum is public.
Right.
But the teachings that go
Yeah,
on throughout the day.
what he's saying is,
Like they
how
say
do I know
this
what
is
the
curriculum.
teacher's saying as compared to what's in the
Oh,
curriculum?
right,
Yes.
right. I got you.
Why
I got
don't you let me handle
Yeah,
it?
I've just got it. I'll just-
Yeah, that's tricky, that's hard.
Like a t-shirt.
But that's why talk to your children.
Every
Kids
day,
record.
every day. I don't remember what I did today.
Yeah, Dad, really?
Like,
Can I have popcorn?
And they don't want to answer that.
Yeah.
Can kids record?
And I
in
don't want to
classroom?
indict the education system. I have people in my family that are school teachers and they do a great job.
I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
anything's wrong, but it's just to
It's like
confirm.
any profession, there's people that allow their bias to get involved. One of the things as a police officer, you take an oath, and you used to always remind my officers and myself as well. Doesn't matter what my political beliefs are or any other personal beliefs about anything. Treat everyone the same. And I'm not here to tell you how I think you should think.
Say the
Following up on that brings good, because I was wondering if we could get access to what they're teaching the teachers. Because they're being influenced, now, what you just said,
Yeah.
but they're being almost told not what to teach and how to think and how to shape the kids.
Be careful
In
who
the old
you
days,
vote
it used to be
for.
reading, writing, arithmetic, just go to school and win. Now it's a whole, they're trying to mold them into indoctrination.
Well, there's an argument that there's a particular group that's trying to indoctrinate and have the kids see things a certain way.
Right.
And
But they're even teaching, they have programs, I'm trying to say, programs
to
to
teach the
teach the
teachers.
teachers.
Well,
Can we
that's
get
on
access
public
to
record
that?
too.
Desi,
Desi.
Barda.
Lori gave us some of that
Oh, she did?
access, but
Okay.
we don't know how to get into it. That's-
But do we have the right to?
Sure, it's public record, unless it has to be being, so anything that the public government is in possession of, with some exceptions, is public record, you can get that. Now, if it's a private company teaching it, and you reach to that company, say, I want all your curriculum, they don't have to give you.
Oh, sure.
Now, there might be an exception if it's paid for with public funds.
And then you have to prove that it's by public funds. Because you don't know where that grant came from.
Yeah. Well, grants
Yeah,
grants are just what you think they are. We're granting you money to use differently than what the law
You
provides.
should be able to get who wrote it and what's in it.
If it's a public grant, yeah, of course you can. Yep. Now, remember, if it's a private body giving them the grant, you don't have a right to get anything from that private body. But the grant that they filled out, if the documents are in their possession, you have a right to see them.
Which they have to be if the Department of Public,
Sure, oh yeah, I think they'd have a hard time
yeah. the city
defending it to the Attorney General's office that they don't have copies of it. Anything else?
You asked if they can record.
Yeah, can a student record their teacher?
That's a
Secretly?
good question.
Yeah.
So a public meeting, you can record a public meeting as long as you tell the person in charge that I am recording this. And then he or she should be telling them they're recording it. In a town meeting, you can't record it. It's under a different set of rules. You can't record it unless there's a vote, majority vote that you can. In school, that's a really good question. The wiretapping law of Massachusetts, everybody misunderstands it. What do you believe it says? How many people believe that you can record my voice if I tell you can't?
If you say you can't,
Right. If I say, I'm going to record your voice, and you say, no, you don't have my permission, can I record it?
Yes.
I'm
It
thinking you
depends on
can
where it
if
is,
you're
right?
in
Yeah, it
public,
depends on where it is.
The general rule is, I can record it.
yeah.
Now, there are exceptions if it's a place of certain privacy, such as your bedroom and things like that. However, here's how it works. I can video record you anywhere I want. Now, if I'm engaging in an intrusion where I'm doing a Zoom camera or a drone or something, look into your bedroom window with that's an invasion of privacy. I can video, otherwise I can video wherever. I can video in here, this is a private establishment. Of course I can video on the street. Can't record your voice unless I've told you I'm recording it, or it should be obvious to you that I'm recording it. So if I do this, and I'm pointing right at David, all right? Can I record his voice?
No.
Yes.
I can.
Yes.
I can. Because he should reasonably know that's what I'm doing. Now if I do this, I turn it on, and I go and sit down and they say, hey Dave, so what's going on, buddy? Can I record that? No. Because I'm doing it secretly, subversively. Unless he saw me turn it on and put it in my pocket. All right? So you can record people's voices as long as you've either told them you are, or it is obvious that you are. And there's some exceptions, privacy and stuff, but like in this room, do it. Now let's say one of you has a tape recorder on right now in your pocket. You are committing a felony where you could get 5 to 10 years in jail. Secretly recording our voice.
Okay, shut the
Just,
recording.
I'm
Wow.
recording it.
So let's talk about that recorder for a minute.
Yeah,
Let's talk about this for a minute. Do you notice something on it? What do you notice?
Red light.
Red light. That, in the court size,
It's obvious.
you've been told.
Yeah.
It's recorded.
What about all these secret videos of people, like their conversations and stuff that are coming out? Like,
Well, it depends on the state. Massachusetts is for the most part a two-party state. You either have to tell them you're recording or it's obvious you're recording. But some states, their two-party is not only do you have to tell them, you have to get their permission. And then there's states that are one-party states. One-party state means only one person that has another recording, it can be just me. Remember the stuff with Monica Lewinsky, about her conversation being recorded. So depends on the situation, depends on the state. And then the police can do it with a specific type of a search warrant, a body wire, without you knowing it. But they have to convince a judge that it's appropriate for them to do that.
So even in a public, like say at a vaccine clinic, and it's public, you go in the library, you're asking questions, and you say, I'm recording you.
Yeah.
And they say, you can't record me.
Yeah.
And you say, well, I'm recording you, just,
Yeah. They don't have that right to say you can't record.
they don't have the right to say, yeah.
No.
That's
What
what
happens
I
if you
thought.
don't say you're recording though?
What's that?
What happens if you don't say
Well,
you're recording?
If you don't say you're recording their voice, and it isn't obvious or should have been obvious to them that you are, you might have a problem.
Boy, you're good.
That's what my mother says.
This is really,
Well, not always.
this is really helpful.
That might be a lie. What else? Now remember, all I've said tonight is my legal opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right on everything, and I might change what I tell you for my legal opinion based on a specific situation.
Did you
I was
have
gonna say, I have
stuff
a
you
very
wanted looked
specific
at?
situation.
Like, did you have things you actually wanted looked at, or do you feel like you already brought that up?
The situations are fact specific.
Yeah, I got a full-blown situation, but it takes time to explain it. So I don't know what you want me to do.
How long do you think we're talking?
A little long, not that
Well,
long.
in a
But,
nutshell,
okay,
you know.
so,
basically.
Oh, yeah, I'm all right.
so,
He's recording.
you want me to do my thing now?
I
No,
think,
I'm good.
yeah, let's go ahead and do,
Yeah.
if we have to cut it short, we'll cut it short,
Okay.
but I think maybe just see what you can get
Because
done
I'm
with
usually in
that.
bed by 9 o'clock.
I turn into a
Did you have a nap today?
I knew I shouldn't have shared that with you.
Alright.
What are you gonna like dance for us or something?
No.
You know, I always love when people say, "Counsel, can I just want to run something by you."
One
So
4
real
hours
quick, you
later,
just take a look at something.
700 pages of material.
I'll leave it all. Okay, so,
She's got those right here.
yeah, I left
No,
all
grab it. Do you have,
Tell me, just give me
Okay.
some.
Yeah, in a
So
nutshell.
okay, in a nutshell, I'm a homeschool advocate. I help parents come up with homeschool options. There was a bunch of parents I couldn't help in the public school. They were sending me pictures of teachers wearing Black Lives Matter.
They should not be allowed to wear that.
No, they shouldn't. So I found all the rules and stuff like that. So I have pictures of that. There's rainbow flags in all the classrooms. Some of the students are saying in every single classroom. So only one sexuality is being represented in school. So there was nothing I could do. The school committee completely ignored all my emails. I've tried to reach out to them numerous times. I've tried to go speak
Is
to
this
the.
gonna take a long time?
I'm
No,
in a
I'm
hurry.
teasing. Go ahead.
And then, so, all right, I was like, okay, well, the city has raised the rainbow flag, which we have nothing, go ahead, go do it. So they raised the rainbow flag in the public flagpole. And I was like, okay, well, this is about equality in public spaces, which is
Yeah.
supposed to be equality in public spaces. So I raised a heterosexual flag or.
What exactly does a heterosexual flag look like?
what's our symbol?
The male and the female stick, the circle with the,
With a.
Oh,
and they're together like.
oh, that's cool. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so the churches wanted to call it a nuclear family flag and, or heterosexual, whatever.
So on your own, you did
Street
that.
pride.
Straight, whatever. There's a lot of names
Yeah.
for it. We picked my pastor.
Where
picked,
are you going?
So my pastor picked this one because the only history we couldn't find any negative history on it except a town in New Brunswick, Canada, tried to raise it in the name of equality, but they couldn't do it. It got taken down. So I was like, okay, well, America's based on more freedoms than Canada, so let's try it here. Raised it, got it up. It took a couple months to get it up. So fast forward, it's raised, it's up. A bunch of the city councilors did not like it up.
This is the heterosexual flag?
Yep.
Okay.
So while it was up, Oh, and I made the mayor do a public post with it, because what he did, he stood with the pride flag, the gay pride flag, and took a picture of that.
Right
and-
about now, he's saying there ain't no more flags being raised.
Oh, well, that was the goal, so that was our ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So so I was like, well, you're in violation of your oath of office if you don't take a picture with this one and the discrimination policies, of keeping it equality, showing that Fitchburg is equal in public spaces if you don't promote this one as well. So he did that, so he posted this flag on his official page.
And he got attacked.
Huh? He got attacked.
The flag-
And then I got publicly attacked too, so I got labeled a hate group. My name was the only one in it, so I am labeled a hate group by 4 public officials. I have a stack
This
of.
is all, she got requested all the conversations.
No, that's screenshots of the public officials' public
Emails.
pages, like their official pages.
You might have a defamation case against them.
Right, it gets even worse than that. So I can't even go shopping in because I've been labeled by the government officials as a hate group. Me. I'm a hate group, apparently, and it was nothing negative about that. The gay flag, he said nothing negative. It was, okay, in the name of equality, we're doing this. If you're gonna raise one sexuality, you gotta raise the other one equal.
Yeah.
And whatever, that's pile of public, their official public pages, like like a city councilor, whatever,
Yeah.
they posted hate, like you're a hate group, you're a bigot. They called me up. So now I'm scared to
Calling
go.
you a bigot and stuff, you got a defamation.
And then it gets worse. So the mayor, which again was the whole point, was okay. Well, if you can't raise both equality, then none. Like okay, we
Well,
want.
you know there was a recent decision by a judge involving the city of Boston.
Yeah. So I'm in touch with her. I'm in touch with Hal. I talked to Hal. To talk to Hal.
Okay.
But. So the mayor changed the policy to American flag, POW,
Smart.
Right, so those flags
It's
only.
no different than what I talked about earlier, what groups you let use your facility.
So
If you let one.
then you gotta let them
all.
use all, so that was what I was going for, and fine, we want no flags, if you can't do it
Yeah.
equal, we want none, that was the whole point, was to bring up, look at the discrimination going on in public space, because I can't show anybody in the schools, nobody's paying attention, so boom, I brought attention to it.
Well, you sure did.
And so he changed it, now all these city
Hold on one
councilors.
second. Dave, you're paying attention,
I am.
right? Just wanna make sure you got a lot of food over there.
So all these city councilors now are making their own ordinance saying they get to decide, and I'm pretty sure this is viewpoint discrimination. They get to decide what flag gets to be put up now. They're trying to veto the mayor's
Oh.
ordinance, and they want the
They're gonna
right.
get sued.
All right, so they made this ordinance. The mayor vetoed that one, but I went on a debate, a public TV show debate with one of the main hater, the city councilor, who every single city council meeting, you can see, we are doing this ordinance because of what the mayor did. We're doing this ordinance because of what the mayor did. We're doing this ordinance because of what the mayor did. Right, every city council meeting when the flag policy issue, in the legislative meeting, whenever the flag policy came to talk about, they were like, we were doing it because of the mayor. But in that one debate where I was debating, he let it slip, or he said something where we made this policy before the mayor made his ordinance because of what you did. So wouldn't that be like,
Well, I don't know that that's a problem.
no,
But calling you a bigot and a hate person,
slander or
that's defamation.
So now it's been vetoed, the mayor, so he vetoed the.
they're gonna talk about it one more
It's a
hearing.
meeting next week.
And then the same thing, so I had 2 kids came to one of the city councilors, the council meetings to say, this is happening in the public schools, this is, but these flags are dividing us kids, I'm getting physically bullied and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when one of the counselors stood up and yelled at this 9-year-old.
You should think about reaching out to I think it's the Liberty Group, or there's a couple of national law groups that will take on those cases, usually for free.
They're all saying it's freedom of speech.
Well, it's freedom of speech, except it's not calling you a bigot.
They said that's their freedom to call me that.
Nope. Are you a bigot?
No,
So it's a false statement about your character. That's defamation.
You've been on TV to say the opposite, than how you
Yeah, that's
welcome
defamation.
everybody, and you just.
Now, the argument's gonna be that this is political speech, and therefore it's not defamation, but it really isn't political speech for you. I think it's defamation, but, you know.
Right, like I can't go grocery, if I go
Yeah.
grocery shop, someone recognizes me as a city councilor has now labeled me, I'm a hate group, I'm a bigot, that's dangerous.
A racist or something. yeah.
Right, I'm a anti-LGBT, that was not why I did that, so and they have a big following and they posted it so many places.
Free speech, you know,
I'm
it's not
literally
free
put in
speech when
danger.
you make false statements of someone to injure their character. Particularly if you know they're false, or you should have known that they were false, or you used reckless disregard for the truth.
Which one of the councils did?
Oh, and then another thing, so I was getting hate mail, which, whatever, because one of the city councilors publicly posted my email. And I've been getting hate email. One of the hate emails was created by John Doe, John Doe, whatever. But the last hate email had my public record request. So I made a public record request to get all the emails that these city councilors are saying. So I wanted to see what hate they were spreading via
Yeah.
email between each other. So I did that January 13th. And then this most recent email from John Doe was my public record request. So that means John Doe went to City Hall to get my public record request. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go down, and I made another public record request to see who has requested my public record request dated January 13th to that date.
Find out who it is.
Right, to find out who it is. I was gonna be like, okay, well, I got 3 names and go down to the police station. No public citizen requested it. So that means
It was
a
internal.
city councilor. Oh, and so the city councilor, the one who likes to bang the gravel and not let me speak and whatever, doesn't like me talking, is also in charge of the city clerk office, where all your public record requests go. He has mansplained to me multiple times how he has complete authority over the
Try
city
taking it
clerks.
to the Attorney General's office, the public
I tried to bring it to,
integrity section.
I tried to bring it to the ethics department. The ethics department says they only take, conflict of interest complaints,
Yeah.
and then it's got to be very slow conflict of interest.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even say that. I even tried to bring this new
Yeah.
part up as a conflict of interest because it's okay.
No,
Well,
I
you're a
think-
city
I think
councilor.
it needs to go to the public records section of the AG for the public integrity.
The what?
Public integrity, the public records section of the AG's office.
I
When
get it.
someone doesn't cooperate with you on public records, you can look it right up in the law. You file a complaint with the Attorney General's office. And, I mean, you're gonna have to find a way to word it that, hey, this so-called person requested it, and no persons came in and requested, and you believe that it's them, so, you want a public records request of, you want them to take a look at it. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is, if someone is a public official and they use their governmental email, it's public records, right? It can be
Yeah. So
disclosed.
I've got
What if-
thumb drive of their
However,
emails.
what if I choose to use my own private email and I name it John Doe? Do you have a right to see it?
But I could see who sent it. No.
Who agrees with it?
I
Where was
I-
the email
I
sent?
just
Oh, well, that day, that's because you're so damn busy on that piece of cake. If I use my governmental email to do governmental business, or any business, is it public record?
Yes.
Yes. If I use my private email to do any kind of governmental business, is it private or is it public record?
Public.
It's
Yeah.
if you do it in public, it's.
Who says it's public?
It's government.
You're right. If I use a private email address for public purposes in my office or my employment, it's discoverable. So,
So I was hoping to find. I haven't gone
what
through
you
all the
really need to
emails.
do is try to get someone, a tech person, to look at the email chain, see if they can determine the
The
IP.
city tech, they gave me, I have a thumb drive they gave me. I had to go pick it up last week and I haven't gone through all the emails yet. But I was hoping to see, maybe I could see who, one of them sent the public
Well, an
records,
email
so-
can usually be traced.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emails on it.
Yeah. But the ones you're interested are John Doe.
Yeah.
That's what you're interested in.
John Doe's not in that one.
Yeah. Well, the John Doe one, that's the one you're interested in. You want to see if that comes back to someone's internet provider at their house that happens to be a council
Right, look up
member.
John. So I could send a public record request for John Doe at whatever it is.
Well, wait a minute.
No, it's a,
You can request if the government has any of that. But what I'm telling you is, if they don't, you can hire someone, a tech person, I don't know what they charge you, but they can usually track that email to the internet provider. And then they may very well be able to get you who the subscriber
Because
is.
there's a
Yeah.
code.
Police do it all the time.
Let's go back to the beginning of my story. I'm a homeschool mom where I don't make money.
Yeah. That's
If
where
you
you
have
stop.
legitimate,
It could
I-
be any, could be.
I will help you. If you, we'll talk about that
A
later.
tech person that knows how to just, 2 minutes is. look
Well,
it
I don't
up.
know if it's 2 minutes.
Well, there's that code at the bottom that.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's
So,
stuff
so
that
that's,
they can.
so the city councilor, the the head guy, that he's the head city councilor. So he's also in charge of the city clerk, but he let me know in one of the emails too, when I asked, like, why did you, he wanted to give them, I forget how the verbiage he used, but he wanted to give them the courtesy of my public record request, so he gave my public record request to all the city councilors, which is, I feel like a conflict of interest, because it's asking for their emails. And an internal search of the emails, not,
Well, I don't know that it's a problem him giving a copy of it, it's a public record. Your request is a public record if it's in their possession.
so, no,
I mean,
but
if
that wouldn't
they,
be a normal
if they
procedure
use-
to,
if they use
just
that to
willy-nilly
thwart
give it
your
out.
ability to get emails, well, that's a problem.
what?
If he gives it to them to thwart your ability to stop you from getting emails, that's a problem.
Well, they can erase.
So, yeah, I mean, how do
But
I
if he's
know
just
they
saying, hey, look
delete
at
them?
this we got. I mean, as soon as the town got it, they should have sent it to all of them. Hey, here's what we got, you need to get me these emails. Now, all of their governmental emails should be on a server. Because the town's obligated to keep copies of them for public records requests.
That's what
But
they
there's gotta be
think, yes.
something, like their oath of office to remain neutral or something, just to spread hate on me like that, because I really can't. I can't bring my kids to the park, I can't go grocery shopping. I mean, I probably could, but I don't want somebody to recognize me and being like, that,
I think you get a defamation case against him.
I go out of town to go grocery shopping. I do the playgroups out
Terrible
of town.
situation.
Yeah, it is.
It's not even my kids in the school, I was helping moms, and I'm like, I got all these, I mean, I've got pictures, I'm like, okay, well,
So, well, see, this is always the problem when you speak out on anything.
if I had a job, the mob would have
Oh,
told
yeah,
them
they'd
not
be
to-
trying to get rid of you.
Right.
We try to get rid of it, so. Well, next is, he vetoed the council's, not an ordinance, but they're, yeah.
Right, but this
So we'll
doesn't
see.
help me with the defamation of, or slander or something that they're.
Yeah, I mean, you could
I'm not a hate group,
yeah.
I'm a
And
mom.
allegedly, but so many of the councils are involved.
Calling you a bigot, if it's not true, is defamatory. And he can try to hide behind his political speech. You're not a politician, you're a private citizen. The standards for defamation against a public official are much different, they're much higher. If you are criticizing him, you can say a great deal about him, and he can't sue you. But he doesn't have the same right against the private citizen. So if you spoke to a lawyer, they may have misinterpreted it. You must have malice, you must show malice. If for a public official to sue for being attacked, they have to show actual malice. Evil. You knew what you said was wrong, and you did it to try to really destroy this.
Sent them a cease and desist, and they
But that-
still.
but that's not the case here, it's just straight defamation. And what they do, they kept saying it?
Yeah, so one of them, so it was only scheduled, all I did was request the flag up for the same amount of time the other flag was up, no more, no less, like, same amount, so there was a start date and an end date for it. It was only up for 1 week, and the day it was scheduled to take down, they're still calling me all these names, and they're still posting all this hate. One of them even went to a hate rally, they promoted a flag removal event. You know,
Sounds like a hate rally to me.
Right.
Hate on other people's position.
and she went to go speak at it. Oh, it gets good too. So she went to go speak at it, and I was like, I told all the groups and all the parents, don't go to it. I don't want to like, I don't want to feed into the fire. Like we're not here to do that. But one of my people did go, and I'm so glad she went, because she went, and it looked like a setup. She's like, there was a camera crew there, and a guy dressed in black, and the city councilor was up there and being like, part of the hate groups here, and look at they're still trying, you know, and she's like, no, it's not part of any hate
You
group.
see,
Like,
that stuff's kind of political.
right, and
It might
then
be
I went
protected.
to reach out to the news station, and they magically lost the footage after she corrected herself because she stopped what she was saying and kind of changed her tune after she knew somebody from the other side was there.
Oh, no.
But they won't touch it. They said it's
Okay.
freedom. They
They
said
feel
it's
it's
freedom of
okay.
speech.
Political speech. Don't see it that way. Defamation cases are incredibly expensive to battle.
Right. But I mean, again, so how can moms stand up and say anything if they're gonna just
Yeah.
be defamed like this? I mean, I knew there'd be a couple keyboard warriors. I was expecting
Yeah.
hate, but I wasn't expecting this from 4 city councilors.
They're politicians. They're playing to whoever they think's got the votes.
Well, that's what they said, vote me out.
And yeah, one of the emails I got that I was looking through, because there's so many on that thumb drive that the city lawyer gave me. There's so many, but there was one where 2 or 3 of they're planning an LGBTQ event up with the
In town, in the city.
city emails, and which is fine, but it's just like, okay, well, you're clearly on this side, and you're now posting me as a hate group because you don't
It's like
agree with what I'm
bias,
saying.
bias, conflict of interest. It's-
Conflict of interest. I thought it was like viewpoint discrimination.
Oh,
So,
any other questions?
Say
'Cause
she
I'll tell
has-
you what, I'm about to fall asleep.
Say she has the funds, she sues, she wins. What does that look like?
Or you get damages. You could get your attorney fees, punitive damages. Depends on how much they think you've been harmed.
I sent 2 notices of intent to file too. So I did that because I was looking into bonds for the win, but I guess elected officials don't have bonds. So I'll give you a copy of what I drafted up and you can send to them.
sure.
Well, I'm not gonna give you legal advice.
No, but you can look at it, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
They're extra copies. So their insurance, I put in a notice to claim on their insurance, and the city lawyer's like, we'll just sit on it until you decide to.
Yeah, they'll sit until you sue them,
Yeah.
Right,
because they don't have to act on it.
so.
Who's the law firm?
Huh?
I know.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I'm making them work hard,
Yeah.
I'll tell them.
You gotta see.
Make them work for their position.
It's just a recap, more or less. So we're all have the issues with the school and the porn and the books and the drag queens coming out and, you know, scantily clad, strapped, whatever they're doing, gyrations in front of kids and all these things going on. And all of this stuff. And so it sounds more like an individual basis, that it's up to the parent, go to these meetings, get.
Yeah, you gotta speak, yeah, you gotta speak out.
Get the evidence, get the books, go in and
And take them on.
and bring it either to an attorney or the police, and it's like a
Police are
case
more,
by
the
case
police
basis.
more than likely are not going to act on it.
Right.
Yeah, I got 4 hate emails, they said, yeah, you have to have 5.
Really?
Huh?
Yeah. Come on.
I'll tell you that.
The police chief, the chief of police.
Well, all right, so I don't know specifically what he's referring to, but to get a harassment order, if that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I don't know, I was trying to look for
You must
something.
have 3 incidents.
No way, he said 5. I was like, I got 4, okay, cool,
I
that was
don't
a
know
dead
if he-
end.
I don't know if he's
I'll
talking
send
about
you one.
something different. But for hate,
I'll
for a
send one too.
harassment order, you must have 3
Well, yeah.
incidents that discuss or put you in fear of bodily harm.
Right, I don't know if John Doe's serious about hurting me. And I didn't know John Doe was a city councilor until after the fact. I did a public record request,
Well,
but
you still don't know who he is.
I still don't know who he
Yeah.
is. But
So
I know
you can't
it's
get a harassment against him because you don't know who he is.
right.
Yeah, it's 3 events under the statute.
Right. Well, I know it's not a citizen that went and asked for it, so it's either one of the city councilors
Yeah,
or,
but no, I'm talking about the incidents, it's the,
Yeah.
he might be referring to some other law that I'm not familiar with.
no, I don't know. I went to see what I could
But
do.
under the statute, harassment order, there's 3
Went
incidents.
down to the police station a bunch of times to see if there, what my options were. Then when I got the 4th email, he was like, well, you have to have a 5th. Okay.
Well, give it a week, I bet you get one.
No, I haven't. I think it's because they all now notice I'm going after,
Yeah.
seeking who
You need
is.
to get the IP address.
Yeah, he said he could if I had a 5th email.
I've got an
Jess, you'd be
unbelievable IT
surprised, like
guy.
he's saying, any tech
Well,
savvy.
well, the beauty is the police can get it easily. So maybe you'll get your 5th one, for whatever reason why he wants 5. But then you can, because he can do a search warrant on the provider.
On the what?
The provider, the internet provider, like
Yeah.
Comcast or Charter or whoever it is. The problem becomes though, is they can track it to the computer at the home, at someone's home. Now you gotta put that person at the keypad. But unless he lives there alone, that's the problem. Gotta put him in the seat.
So
No, that's-
hypothetical, it came from Counselor X's
Yeah.
house,
Well, does anyone else live in Council Rex's house?
Counselor X's wife.
Okay, you got a problem.
Yeah, so they could be using it, yeah, right? How do you-
Remember, the burden is not on them to prove who wasn't using it or who was. The burden is on
Well,
you.
how did Counselor X's wife get the
They
public
don't have
record
to,
request?
they don't have to answer any of your questions. They have a 5th Amendment privilege. Not answering it, not testifying, not answering it. That's what makes it hard. It's just like when the police see someone hit someone and take off. If they don't catch the car and then they find the car the next day or something, they've got to find a way to prove who was driving. Because they don't have it. What's your first name, ma'am?
Mary.
Mary, you've tried to stop me all night,
I did my best.
and you haven't done it.
Right,
But you tried.
moms are not gonna be able to stand up if it's this easy to just label you.
Well,
Hard to
look,
hold them accountable.
I think it's defamation. You weren't engaged in political commentary.
Oh, the lawyer came up to me and said quasi, he said I'm a quasi-public.
Well, so that's what he's trying to argue. Okay, now, remember what I just said a minute ago,
Yeah.
public officials, it's a higher threshold. He's trying to argue that you're a quasi-public official or a person of great notoriety like a
Me?
like a celebrity that
Congrats.
meets the same standard where because of you putting yourself out there, either in public office or by fame or by a social media influencer, you have purposely put yourself out there where you should expect ridicule. That's it. That's going to be his. You're a quasi-public figure. It's hard to
Because you were a
say.
guest on a show.
It's hard to say. You're an advocate, but you're a private citizen.
You were
It's a hard
invited.
one.
Right, I was trying to help the moms with their kids and then.
So
with
see, you
their-
sound like an advocate and quasi-political position. You're helping others. You're
So that
speaking
means
for
they can
others.
just label me a hate.
I didn't say it means they can. I said that's going to be their defense. Doesn't mean it wins, but that's going to be how they try to beat you. Right, Mary?
Yeah, and it's like, you need a leg to stand on, and it's just,
It's hard.
Sorry guys, we're gonna have to wrap this one
I
up.
gotta
Okay,
wrap it
so
up, guys. I am
it's
freaking.
almost.
we'll chat, and guys, just get us all of the content you have from the books.
I
Okay.
need to get that address for Jean because she got the.